Hey guys, it's Jamie. Misgendering myself is not something that happens anymore, thank goodness, but it is something that used to happen early on in my transition, and oh my god, it was the most awkward and cringe-worthy feeling whenever it happened. So when I first came out and I changed my name and asked everybody to use male pronouns instead of female pronouns, I still found myself occasionally misgendering myself in my head, mostly. I don't know if other people do this or if it's just me being weird, don't judge me. But you know when you're like out in public and somebody's staring at you or something and you kind of think what they might be thinking about you? That was the most common time for me to misgender myself. But it didn't happen that much. I don't make a habit of thinking what other people are thinking about me. I also used to respond to being referred to as she, and it did take me like a moment of like processing time. I swear you could hear the cogs going, to realise that the pronoun was wrong, that somebody had used. But whenever something like that happened, whether I used it for myself or it just took me a while to respond, or I did respond to the wrong pronoun, it always felt horrible. Like it made me feel really ewy. And really early on, it did give me these kind of nagging thoughts of like, oh, well, does that mean that I'm comfortable with those pronouns? But the answer was no. Nope. Definitely not at all. No, wasn't comfortable with them. It was just a habit for me to hear those pronouns and use those pronouns for myself. And you know, 17 years for me of being used to female pronouns and having them used on me all the time, it's gonna take a while for that to not be the norm and for that to change, regardless of how I feel about them. But seriously, whenever it happened, it caused the worst internal cringe. And this was mostly when I used it for myself, like in my head in those situations I mentioned earlier, and it was like my body was angry at me because everything would just like shrivel up, and oh my god, it was almost like, even though nobody else heard it because they were my thoughts, it was almost like I'd said something really spectacularly awkward and I was just going to be judged on it forever. But you know, as time went on, it completely stopped and I only used male pronouns. It didn't take too long for me to do that and get used to it, but time varies and it's perfectly okay for it to take longer. It did really help that everybody around me was at least trying their best to use male pronouns, even if they did kind of slip up occasionally. It wasn't a deliberate misgendering, it was accidental. And I think the more that other people got used to it and the more that I was being read as male in public, the less I would slip up. But it was really a massive relief, not just like for everybody else to be using the right pronouns, but to not do it myself, because it wasn't a nice feeling. Essentially, what I'm getting at, my voice just broke. Yay, puberty! Essentially what I'm getting at is, don't worry if you misgender yourself. It really is just down to a habit at the end of the day, and it will take longer to shake that habit if the people around you aren't using the correct pronouns, whether that's deliberately or accidentally. And importantly, misgendering yourself really doesn't mean anything about your identity. It's just something that happens and it's a habit that will be broken eventually. I know it feels horrible when it happens, but it won't happen forever. Anyway, that's everything I have for this week. I know it's been relatively short, but I hope it's been relatively useful. As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you on Sunday. Bye!